looks like we'll be healthy and potentially gaining some reinforcements. I doubt any of those 3 coming off our play this week. I doubt it. Highly doubt it. I highly doubt they play at all, but doesn't hurt having them on the roster, having that type of depth and insurance. Because these dudes are, outside of Logan Lee, he was a 6th-round pick. Cole Holcomb, that's a big name for Steeler Nation. Roman Wilson, that's a big name. We signed Holcomb to a decent deal last offseason. He was a starter for us. Roman Wilson, 3rd-round pick. National champion receiver, highly touted receiver in the draft. So we'll see. Let's get to this game now, like the actual game. Preview this thing before we get up out of here. We won the first matchup. I wouldn't say in like a handedly way. It was for the first 3 quarters. We were up 3 scores, but then the defense gave up some quick touchdowns to Burrow and company, and it got way closer than what it needed to be in the 4th quarter. Because if you think about it, man, the defense played pretty good through 3 quarters, through about 75-80% of that game. We were getting turnovers. Peyton Wilson, was that a pick 6? He was a fumble 6. Yeah, it was a fumble 6. Herbig strip sack Burrow. Peyton Wilson took it to the house. We got a pick off Burrow, tip pass. I think Dante Jackson grabbed it. So we got turnovers on the Bengals. We were stopping them, forcing them to punt on occasion. Like at one point, I think it was at some point in the 3rd quarter, we only gave up, it was like 16, 17 points. Because you got to think the Russ pick 6 in the 1st quarter shouldn't count against the defense and the amount of points that they gave up. So defense was solid. But then 4th quarter happened and it looked uglier than what it needed to be. It looked way closer than what it needed to be. But the offense, that was, with the Russell Wilson era in Pittsburgh, that was the best offensive performance I've seen. 40+. I think we had 500+ yards of total offense. Russ threw for 414 himself. He had 3 touchdowns. QBR was 85. We were gashing them, man. We really were. Whether it was the run game, because we still had 110 on the ground, somewhat efficient, 4.2 yards a carry. Najee had the touchdown. But like across the board, people were getting involved. I think like you could I remember talking about this game. We could mention about 9, 10, 11 guys on offense that had impact. Pickens had a touchdown. Freiermuth had a touchdown. Jaylen Warren was getting his on the ground, not to a high degree. He had 9 yards on the ground, but then was catching passes out the backfield. The whole running back stalwart was catching passes out the backfield. Whether it was Warren, Harris, Cordell Patterson had 3 for 37. Van Jefferson had a clutch catch in the second half for 43 yards. Calvin Austin had a touchdown. Like, bro, there was a lot of guys getting involved. Ben Skoranek, I remember him having like a 20-yard catch for a first down that was critical at that point. So that was just the best offensive performance I've seen from this team in the Russell Wilson era. And I guess I shouldn't be saying the Russell Wilson era. Maybe we just call it in the games that Russell Wilson started, because it's only been like 9, 10 games Wilson's played. Hasn't been that many. I don't think that's worthy of calling it an era just yet. But yeah, and the defense was good too. This is when everyone was talking about the Steelers after this game against the Bengals. Everyone was talking about us being one of the top teams, if not the top team in the AFC, most likely team to take out the Chiefs, all that type of stuff. But since then, it's not been pretty. We've been 1-3. We had a good game against the Browns, but then, these last 3 games just haven't been it. Really haven't been it. And there's context. There's caveats to each of these. I don't think the Eagles and the Ravens game were as bad as the Chiefs game. But still, it all adds up. It all adds up. Results are the results. You're 0-3 in the last 3 games, 1-3 over the last 4 since the last time we met the Bengals. We're trending in the wrong direction. That's not to say we can't get it right this week, but it's just more me talking about the whole context and what's going on coming into this game. Because the Bengals, since we played them, they're 4-0. And we know Burrow's been lighting up. Chase has been lighting up. He's the front runner to win this Triple Crown award. Most receptions in the league, most receiving yards in the league, most touchdowns in the league. Hasn't been done since Cooper Kupp, which is actually kind of recently, but before Cooper Kupp, it's definitely a rarity, not a common thing that you're seeing in the league. Receivers winning triple crowns like that. So the Bengals offense, they're on one. Their team is starting to get this newfound belief that they could do something. They're actually back in the playoff hunt right now. Who would have thought that coming off of that loss against us 4 weeks ago? Because I think they were sitting at like 4-8 after that game. 4-8. It was looking really bleak. But they've won 4 in a row. Now they're at 8-8. They've gotten some help. They still need some help. They got to beat us, and then they got to hope that the Dolphins lose and also hope that the Colts lose. No, the Colts already lost. They're out of playoffs. It's the Dolphins and the Broncos. I think those are the only 2 teams they need to lose this week. And the Dolphins are playing the Browns. No. Ravens are playing the Browns. Dolphins are playing is it the Bills? I can't remember who they're playing. But either way, that's kind of where the Bengals are right now. They got a lot more momentum on their side than what we do. But at the same time, their defense can be had. Like their defense, even on this like Bengals little winning streak they're going on, their defense is getting carved apart. And we saw what happened in the first matchup and how Russell Wilson and the Steelers offense had their way against the Bengals. Like there's no reason that can't happen again in this game. No reason. Pick them apart through the air, pick them apart through the ground. It doesn't really matter. It's like a pick your poison. What style of game do you want to play here? And in the first one, we were more air attack, even in the first quarter, because we used the running backs in the passing game almost like our running game, just dinking it off to Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren in the middle of the field, having them pick up 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 yards a pop. And we were moving the ball at a really high clip. That was his best game. I'll say it again. That was his best game in a Steeler uniform, hands down. 400-plus yards, 3 touchdowns. He was in complete command. He was looking like the top 5 or 6 quarterback that, we were talking about a few weeks ago. So I see us not having trouble on offense. I mean, as long as we don't turn the ball over, we should be able to get yards, help keep our defense off the field, put up points. But now the question turns to the defense a little bit. And I don't even know if we could say on the Steelers offense it's a guarantee that we won't turn the ball over, because we have been turning the ball over in really, really untimely situations over the last 3 games. Because that's the one thing at least you could say when we were on our win streak, when Russ first started for us, we at least weren't turning the ball over. But then Russ was coming up clutch in the second half. And that's what Fields was doing too. That's how we were winning games. We at least on offense weren't turning the ball over. And if we needed to push the ball down the field or have some explosive plays, we were capable of that. More so with Russ than Fields, but now it's starting to get a little weird with the turnovers, because that's not a part of our MO. That's not a part of our foundation and identity. But it's popped up over the last few weeks. So I don't even know if it's a guarantee. I think like we had to have hit a breaking point, right? We had to hit a low point of just like, okay, let's get back to what we were doing. The wheels have come off the tracks here. Let's go back to fundamentals. Let's not turn the ball over. Let's see what happens there. Let's start there, and then we'll see how the game goes. And if we got to open it up in the second half, we got to start taking some shots. We'll do that, but let's just not turn the ball over and see what happens there. But that's like the offensive strategy. Defense, I don't know, bro. I don't even know. For our defense, we just might have to. We just got to pray that something gets fixed here. The communication gets right, because you saw what happened last week against Mahomes. You saw what happened against Lamar, Hurts. I mean, this is Burrow. This is another guy in that caliber. If not, like, out of those 4, he might be the one playing the best right now, actually. I still think Mahomes, you're taking him in a QB's ranking contest, but like Burrow's lighting up. He really is. So, I mean, if we're giving up, I think on average, I mentioned we're giving up 30-plus points on average over these last 3 games as a defense. We're also giving up, on average, 400-plus yards per game over these last 3 games, too. It's like, I don't know what the solution is here, because in a way, we got fortunate with those turnovers in a Bengals game. If we don't get those, then what do we got going right now? We didn't get turnovers in the Chiefs game. Did we? No, I don't think we did. We didn't get any turnovers. There was a couple opportunities. There were some balls on the ground, but we didn't get any turnovers. And that's been one of the staples too for what we've had going on defense. Like on offense, we haven't been turning the ball over. On defense, we've been getting these takeaways. But if you take that away, man, we've been getting gashed at times. We've been getting gashed. Even going back to when we were playing like lesser teams like the Giants and Raiders, it popped up a little bit. But we got these splashy little turnovers that I think we were able to. It enabled us to gloss over some of the issues at the time. But even I said, like, bro, this isn't gonna cut it necessarily against Mahomes and some of these better teams, Lamar Jackson with the Ravens. It's not necessarily going to cut it because you got to be able to stop an offense in their momentum. You got to be able to like scheme up things and get them to punt and 3 and out. Like that's a more sustainable approach than just getting turnovers. Don't get me wrong, turnovers are a thing. It helps, but sometimes you got to be like fundamentally sound, got your schemes right, and all that type of stuff. Players winning their one-on-ones. I'm not trying to diminish the takeaways, but you see what happens when we don't get them. It's not pretty. So I'm just praying something gets worked out. Home game, the communication gets fixed, whatever it is. We got to get right on defense in this one. We definitely got to get right. So what I'm saying is, in terms of prediction, I think this is going to be a shootout. I definitely think it's going to be a shootout again. It's going to be in the 30s. Not to the degree of the Cincy game. We're at Hines. I think the weather might be a little bit worse. It's going to be a little bit colder. We're going to be on grass. So I don't think it's going to be as high flying and high octane for either team. With Cincy a few weeks ago, whenever we were playing there, it was turf grass. Weather was good. So I'm thinking 30s though. Thinking 30s. We win 31-28. 31-28. That's based off the offense getting back on track and the defense neutralizing the Bengals offense to some sort of degree, the best that they can. Burrow's still going to have his numbers. Chase will still they'll still get their numbers, whether it's Chase or Higgins, because Chase in the first game, we were actually able to do a good job on him, the majority of it. It was Higgins, the one that was cooking us. So, like, you got to, in a way, pick your poison with this Bengals offense. So, like, they're going to move the ball. They're going to have their moments, but maybe we get that turnover too we need. Maybe we get that stout play from JPJ, maybe Patrick Queen, and the communication's better with the front set, whatever. Something just got to give here. Something's got to give. We got to get this thing back on track. Backs up against the wall. We got this nice rest coming off of the 3 games that we played, like 10 games in a row, 11 days in a row or something. So that should help. You got a lot of people talking down on this team right now. That's going to be motivation. Bill Cowher once said, you're not as bad as they say you are, and you're not as good as you think you are. And that's probably true, man. So it's always somewhere in the middle. This Steelers team is not as bad as these last 3 games. It's not as bad. It's just not. Maybe we weren't as good, though, going into those last 3 when we were sitting at 10-3 and everyone was talking about us really highly. But that's fine as well. But that's fine, too. I think that's like a realization you got to have. Maybe we're not as good as everyone was saying, but we could get there. Let's get humble again. Let's get back to work. Let's get focused because we got games in front of us. And right now, forget about the talk. Who cares? Middle of the regular season talk, middle of the regular season awards and act. Who cares about that? Now is the time where talk is absolutely cheap, or talk doesn't matter at all. It's about what you do. So hopefully that's the mentality. Maybe these last 3 games end up being the silver lining we need, the wake up call that we need, the best point in the season for us. It's that turning point where this is where we go on a run. This is where we actually lock in and start focusing and start paying attention to the things that matter as opposed to the things that don't. So, all right, that's it for today's show. Shout out to everyone for stopping through. Appreciate it. Stay chilling. Peace.